Video transmission. Okay, we're live. Hey, everybody, it's Rita from I Don't Like Murder with my good friend Jenny. We're going to be talking about a few cases today. Welcome, Jenny, and she's going to start us off on our live stream. Hey, Jenny.
Hi, Rita. So I'm going to be talking about two cases that may or may not be connected here,
From I Don't Like Murder with
just
my
south of Indianapolis in Southport. Both cases are from 2017. So the first one I'm going to go over is going to be Kobi Waldon. He was a 31-year-old man who got shot outside of his apartment in May of 2017. And then the next, he had got home from practice from his roller derby team. He was big into roller derby. So he had got home from practice and went to the grocery store and sat in his car for a while because he was so sore from practice.
Mm-hmm.
And he made a post on Facebook saying that um that he was just sitting in his car because he was so tired he didn't want to move. And then he got out of his car, and what the theory is that he dropped his stuff and then ran around to this little like wooded area by a creek, and he got shot back there.
Mm.
They There were some fishermen that found his body the next day behind there. So still to this day, it's not solved, and the 6-year anniversary just happened at the beginning of the month.
Mm.
So they really, from my research, don't really have any leads. They don't know. He didn't have any enemies. He wasn't into drugs. He wasn't any kind of a criminal. Everybody loved him. He worked retail, and all of his employees that he managed liked him. His roller derby team loved him. Uh, so the only thing that was a little askew was he had had a bad breakup recently,
Mm-hmm.
but the police did look at his ex, but didn't necessarily. I don't know if they didn't have evidence or can't prove anything, but it's been so long, and it just seems like after 6 years, I mean, in this circumstance, you're in an apartment complex.
Right.
Somebody had to have seen something, I would think. And it's not, I mean, that area, I don't know the area too well, but I mean, it's an apartment complex, so there's people around all the time.
Right.
And that is generally a good, safe area. It's not known for a lot of crime.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing, his sister, who was really close to him, said that one possibility is that he was gay and it may have been a hate crime.
Mm.
But I still think that if that had been the case, they would have solved it by now. To me, it's really strange that this one's not solved.
Right.
Um, but there was not really any physical evidence left. So, I'm kind of at a loss with this of like, how does this not get solved?
Right.
You know, like just one of many murders here that isn't solved. Um,
And so, right,
so
so
then
they
the
only
next,
have, I'm sorry, let me just ask a quick question. So they have really limited information. Fell asleep in his car and then was found later in a creek.
yes,
And that's all. And they, no video, no, CCTV cameras, and everyone's at, does it sound serial killer-ish? I don't know. It's just so random, right?
yeah, and nothing was stolen from him, which
Right. So
kind
bizarre.
of, it wasn't a robbery.
Right.
Um,
And I'm sure they've investigated
so
everybody and their brother, related.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
And right,
sure.
being a great person and no reason. So bizarre.
Yeah. So what makes this case a little stranger is about 2 months, roughly 2 months after this, a woman got shot in that same complex.
Hmm.
Um, her name it's Erin Mills. And her and her fiance were unloading groceries one night, and they were robbed. She got shot to death, and then the fiance did survive, but he was injured in the process.
Right.
Um, and so about an hour after the murder took place, there was an armed robbery in the area, so that was a possible suspect.
Right.
But from everything I researched, her case still isn't solved either.
Hmm.
So there is I mean, obviously, because of the proximity, they may be connected, but they're still not sure if they're connected. And neither I know Kobe's is not solved. I couldn't find anything about Aaron's for sure, whether hers is solved or not, but I don't think it is,
Hmm.
which to me is crazy that neither of them are solved. And there's really no, like, there was no reason for Erin either. She was a great person, an army veteran, just living her life in a relatively safe area. So that's kind of where I don't understand, is like, it's a nice area, and the two murders were so different to me, because no robbery, I don't think they're connected, but obviously, there's really no way to know for sure until there's some type of information about solving the case.
Right. Like there's some break. What's amazing is, in broad daylight, how does someone not see anything? Right. Obviously, there weren't cameras, I'm guessing, or right, or is there anything about cameras being at the apartment complex? I'm so used to having
I don't think
cameras
there were
everywhere,
any
right? Because
cameras.
obviously they would have put something out saying there's a car, a person, they look like this in fuzzy picture. But man, that's trippy. It's kind of
Yeah,
scary. Eek. Especially when it doesn't
it
fit the
is.
it doesn't fit the mold of bad part of town, a lot of problem, right? So is that, and then
Yeah.
for it to be 2 months apart, yikes. I am sure the people that live there are a little bit on
Yeah.
edge, going like, what the what?
Oh,
Could
I'm
be
sure.
completely separate things, but still, and then the fact that they're unsolved, yikes. Yeah,
Yeah.
poor families.
So we do have a pretty bad solve rate here in
Mm.
general.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that is probably part of the issue. I think it's something like 35% of the murders here are solved. So,
Wow.
I mean, but the majority of the murders here are drug related, gang related, like people that know each other.
Right.
It's very rarely that it's like seemingly random. I mean, I guess these may not be random. It may be somebody that knew them and they just were good at hiding what they did.
Yeah. I mean, and it just reminds me of like these cold cases that come up in the news that
Mhm.
are solved 10, 15, 20 years later. And which gives
Yeah.
hope, I guess, a little bit of hope for the families. But my goodness, can you imagine? And because the police, they do actively continue to investigate, but I imagine the longer time goes, the less attention, because there's always
Mhm.
another a crime to solve. But yikes.
Yeah, I think, well, I don't know how actively they keep doing stuff, especially here when the murder rate is ridiculous. So I don't know how much attention any of this gets, but also nobody's really came came up with any information leading to any kind of arrest or anything like
Mm.
that. So, it's kind of it's crazy. And Kobe's sister Kayla, they were extremely close. They lost their parents when they were really young.
Oh my.
So, that I don't want to say forced them, but that caused them to be really close.
Yeah.
So it's really sad for her that she lost, one of her only family members.
Absolutely. And it goes along, um, just in the world of just the victims, who are left to tell the story of the people that they've lost. It's just
Mhm.
tragic because of all that's lost. And
Yeah.
then you can't even put yourself in that position. But then, just all the tangled parts, and all the characteristics of what happens in the aftermath of a crime, and of course of a murder,
Yeah.
anything traumatic. There's a lot of different traumatic crimes, but who it affects, how far it's reaching, but then that frustration
Mhm.
of not being solved. That's, I mean,
Yeah.
there's, it just reminds me of here in the Bay Area when I was growing up, a young kid, there was a disappearance of a young girl. I mean, and it's like 30 years later, 35 or something, and they celebrate every year in the town, two towns over from
Yeah.
me. She disappeared off the face of the earth, broad daylight on her way home from school, and not a
Yeah.
clue, nothing. And so all the family has, and still looking technically, or celebrating her life. And I can't even
Mhm.
imagine. I just,
Yeah.
can't even imagine, because it's that not knowing. I mean, obviously they don't know for her. It would be unusual if she hadn't left this earth, being gone so long, and
Mhm.
this many years. But
Yeah.
but just to have, it's like this horrific crime and then no resolution to it. Yikes. Yeah, it's
Right.
frightening. Yeah, and then
Yeah,
again,
and I
like
just
the people that live there that are impacted, to go, wait, nobody solved this, because we need
Mhm.
that as humans, right? To say someone's taking care of
Yeah.
this, right? Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. They're not. They're not.
Oh, so
Yeah.
is that your case today? That was a
That's my
oh,
case.
or cases. That was a short one. So I have a case that's
Yes.
completely different. It does involve a murder, but in a tangled web, and they do know who done it, who did it, who's done it. But I'm going to give we're for people who, besides the two of us, who watch this later, and uh, we're talking about two, but we're gonna actually work on, breaking these up to make them two different videos, or cutting them up. So I'm gonna take a 10-second pause here, and then start over with my case. You ready, Jenny?
Yes.
Awesome. It's gonna be a fast 10 seconds. Okay. So everybody, thank you for watching. Of course, this is Rita with I Don't Like Murder with Jenny, and my case today
Hey.
is, hey Jenny. Oh, sorry, Jenny. I said hey, and then I didn't say hey, Jenny. So I want to start by saying that in researching and looking at different, crimes, I was drawn to a case of a love triangle, and I mentioned to Jenny a few weeks ago. I said I keep seeing these love triangles, and it's usually, if it's over a man, these women are hurting each other. They're going after each other, um, and uh, instead of it being, hey, let's work this out, it's kind of the gentleman who's breaking their commitment to each other, because the women find out, oh, you're dating somebody else, and then these two women are fighting, and he's over in the corner just going, okay, whatever. So I found these. So I started commenting, oh my gosh, I'm only seeing this. And then I found a case that I'm going to talk about today, where the gentleman, was murdered. And here it goes. And I want to start with what the original headline said, and then how it unfolded in time over a couple days, and then why it's an interesting case. It's a case that's still in the judicial system. It hasn't been solved. It happened, May 8th, 2022. And the headlines, it was a Saturday early morning. But the headlines, first headline was, Woman allegedly kills husband in apparent love triangle. So a lot of local news, local blogs, local papers said woman kills husband, police come, see a man that's shot multiple times. He goes to the hospital, he's
Mhm.
pronounced dead, and that was the story. So that and
Yes.
you can, if you look it up online, you see multiple stories, and there's two, one for the 8th, and then the story starts to get a little bit more complicated come Monday. But really, she is the police come and the police report when they do the news conference the next morning on Sunday. The news report is that we went in. She said it. She shot her husband because he had told her he was in love with another woman and he wanted to be with her. That's what she said.
Mhm.
And the police said,
Yeah.
okay, no, you're coming with us because you can't do that. And because the gentleman, when he was pronounced dead, now it becomes murder. And she's handcuffed and
Right.
taken to jail. And then the reporting is, yes, she told the police why she did it and how she did it with a gun. And then the next reporting is, and then there'll be an arraignment on Monday. And that's where the story gets a little bit complicated. What is interesting is on Monday, for a little tiny town, this is Spring, Texas, for a little tiny town, that news, of course, it's sensational, but that morning there were a lot of reporters. And I thought there was a lot of reporters, and you'll know why in a second, because a lot of people were talking to reporters about this case. But what we find out on Monday is the police, during their investigation, find out from um, the family of the gentleman. His name is James Hardgrove. He's the one that was shot and killed. They find out from his family that the woman who shot him was his on and off again girlfriend of 7 years, not his wife.
Oh my god.
So his so here's the arraignment. So my guess is the reporters probably got word of this from the police department to say this case is changing quickly because of how many people
Mhm.
showed up at this arraignment. The key person who showed up at the arraignment was the legal Mrs. Hardgrove. Her name is Sandra Hardgrove, and she was being interviewed by reporters because so the arraignment comes on Monday. Karin Stewart is in the orange jumpsuit and is in court, and then they're doing the probable cause affidavit why she should stay in
Mhm.
jail and needs to go, decide what she needs an attorney. She's got a $75,000 bond, and
Yeah.
but the complicated part is the legal Mrs. Hardgrove said,
Mhm.
I got a call from the police saying that your husband was shot and didn't make it. And she said, a what? And here's here's how the crime went. And then because there is a third person, as I mentioned, because the woman in the beginning who claimed she was the wife, who's actually the girlfriend of 7 years, Mr. Hardgrove brought in who is the third woman who he had met her 2 months prior to his death, and that's the one that he told the girlfriend that he was in love with and wanted to be with. So here's how the crime went down. they pulled they're able to now the woman the actual so we start with a triangle. Usually a triangle is three. There's actually four people
Yeah.
involved. The actual Mrs. Hardgrove knows nothing about it until she gets a call that her husband is gone. So
Okay.
they the woman so they're able to get surveillance video out from the neighbor of the house that the shooting happened. At
Okay.
1:45 a.m. in the morning, a car pulls up into the driveway and two people get out. Mr. Hardgrove's one, and the other is the girlfriend of 2 months who remains anonymous throughout this whole thing. She doesn't want people knowing her name. She
Mhm.
reports they were going in to tell her that he doesn't want to be with her anymore. So
Okay.
2:21 is when the police are called that a shooting has occurred. So, and then a reporter who gets an exclusive to talk to the anonymous new girlfriend, she says, we went in to tell him he doesn't want to be with you anymore, and I'm the new girlfriend. She was surprised
Okay.
that Miss Stewart went into the bedroom, got a gun, and walked out and shot Mr. Hardgrove multiple times. So
Yeah.
she, rightfully so, runs out of the house, and she reports she could still hear gunshots as she's running down the street.
Oh my.
She also says that Mr. Hardgrove told her that he was in an open marriage. So she thought that the woman they were going to say, this isn't it with Miss Stewart, was the wife. So that's where it gets complicated, right?
Oh
So
my gosh. Yeah.
then, right? So,
Fellas, keep it in your pants.
right? Well, Mr. Hardgrove. So now, poor Mrs. Legal Hardgrove, she shows
Yeah.
up to the
Has
arrangement to
no idea.
say, can you imagine? Number one, I see the headline, the wife kills the husband. She's saying, I'm the wife. Now,
No, we didn't.
yes, what's interesting about that is she said, we met in 2006. We were married in 2009. We have children. We have family. We have commitments. But
Yeah.
they separated in November. So 7 months prior to his shooting,
Okay.
they separated. And she said, I know
Okay.
we had issues, but I knew nothing about a girlfriend of 7 years and
Yeah.
absolutely nothing about the new girlfriend. And so and she also added, he got really sick from COVID and he was hospitalized for months. And she seems to think that Karen Stewart was somebody who was a caretaker at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know when or how. So we
Okay.
because this is still working, we only know little bits and pieces. But
Yeah.
the whole thing is interesting is the legal Mrs. Hardgrove, the anonymous girlfriend who ran when the gunshot started.
Mm-hmm.
They are they were talking to reporters to say let's clear the air here, which but
Yeah.
so we have Mr. Hardgrove who is married in a very 14-year marriage,
Mm-hmm.
decides to that they're separating. They're still legally married. They're just separated. Moves in with his girlfriend of 7 years on and off. Then
Okay.
on that woman, he decides during that time he's going to go and see this third woman, which ends up um, ending his life because he decides he loves her, not Miss Stewart. And what I find interesting is the two of them going to her home at 2 a.m. To say this is just to me in my world. If somebody came knocking on my door at 1:45 in the morning to say we'd like to talk to you about how we're here's the new girlfriend, you're out, and while
Rita,
but go ahead, yeah,
can we take a tech pause real quick?
oh sure,
I don't think you're visible on the stream.
oh I can see myself on the stream.
Okay.
Okay. Are you not seeing me? Because I'm seeing me
Yeah, yes, I am. It's
delayed.
it's showing something. Don't worry about it. Just
Keep
go.
going. Okay.
We can talk about
Yeah,
it later.
and we can talk, and we can, yeah, but just give us kudos for being live, yay, and having a background. Okay, so here's the thing is that the cases it's been a year, and it might take a very very long time, right, for it to go through the system. I searched all
Mhm.
over to see if there's any addendums, but it's yeah, the fact that she yelled out, "I shot him." She's going to have a defense and maybe it'll be a plea. I don't know, but I'm following it. what I find interesting and is I don't want to say it's a defense, but my first thought was I could totally see her being really mad, especially because my first thought was here she is in this long term relationship with him. 7 years is a long time. He finally
Yes.
decides to separate from his wife
Right.
and goes to her. And I can imagine she's
Mhm.
thinking, well, I guess it was worth it. And
Right.
then within a few months, he's turning around saying, I have a new girlfriend now. And
Mhm.
now, here's a big twist. And here's why Miss Stewart's defense is going to get tough. Because in 2016 or 2017, in a prior relationship, or maybe it was earlier, but her ex husband, she tried to run him over with a truck and doused him with lighter fluid. So she's got a
Yeah.
conviction. Yeah, she's got a conviction on that. So I would say she's got some impulse control issues. Yeah, right.
Maybe a little.
So I don't, yeah, that's why when I'm thinking about the defense going, it's kind of you go, okay, you can see someone, this would be a total snapped episode. They just went, oh, heck no,
Oh, yeah.
right? Heck no. I do think, and this is an awful thing to think of. I keep going. The family was able to come out and say, listen, in the first day, hey, by the way, this isn't the real wife. He's married to somebody
Mhm.
else. This is a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And then leaving it up to the legal wife because she's got to bury him now. They had to plan the funeral
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
she's in disbelief. If you watch the video, she's in total disbelief, going, no idea. I can't even imagine getting that call. And she
Yeah.
said we had our issues, but didn't think he'd be murdered. But my thought is that Mr. Hargrove, he just made some choices, right? Is that yeah? Is that it's like you're tempting the
Yeah.
devil one time too many, and it's oh my goodness. But yeah, that's the case. Is that Miss Stewart is now? I have seen nothing about her being able to make that $75,000 bond. No more court. I'm sure there's some behind the scenes updates, but there's nothing that's published. And he was, of course, had a funeral, and now I'm just waiting to see if there's any change or what if there's a plea. I just thought in looking at the love
Yeah.
triangles, which love triangles seem to be a big reason for sometimes a spouse, a partner murdering someone, to free them up to be with
Yeah.
someone else, is the extra twist on this one was there was a fourth person, and then poor Mrs. Hardgrove. But I can you imagine to go, wait, I see the newspaper going, I'm not. I'm the wife, and I didn't shoot him. And
Yeah.
then her feeling the need to go to the arraignment to go, I need to tell people it wasn't me. And and then yeah, so
Yeah.
thinking good
That's
good thoughts,
that's a lot.
and it's a lot, right? Like I said, it's complicated, and yet I think Mr. Hargrove, everyone really liked him. I mean, obviously, and he definitely loved women. um, but it's just that one thing of it, it's just you're pushing the envelope a little too much because you just yeah, you just don't know. Anyway.
Well, make sure you know the woman's not crazy if you're gonna do this kind of thing.
So this was a quick live stream because we're a little bit under 30
Yeah.
minutes. But yeah, that's part of our test and it's an unusual
That's
time.
all right.
But we've had fun. But Jenny, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Always good to see you. And
Thank
I
you.
absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, obviously I can talk for another 27 seconds. But oh yeah, be sure to, we are on Spotify if you want to listen to on Spotify. Of course, we have a Twitter channel and a Twitter. Yeah, I guess we're on Twitter and YouTube. But thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye, Jenny.